These are two 1000 UG LSD trip reports from Reddit. Story 1. To start this off, I've been doing LSD for a decent amount of time, and I don't recommend that anybody take this high of a dose unless you have adequate experience and good friends to keep you going. Every Wednesday in Ocean Beach, Southern California, there is a drum circle with fire spinners and some of the headiest people you've ever met. My friends had told me about it, and I wanted to go because I love that stuff, but I was never able to plan a day around it or prepare correctly because I knew I wanted to go hard. I finally got a day off one fateful Wednesday, and it was on. Me and my friends showed up with drums 2 hours early so we could go wook hunting. After having a few talks with the crowd, I found someone who was selling these really pretty red and purple gel tabs that were just huge. He told me they were 250 UG per hit, so I bought 4 and was planning on doing 2 then and 2 later that week. After I took the first 2 gel tabs, 2 hours went by, and it didn't hit me that hard, which is strange because I usually get high within 30 minutes to an hour. So I ended up taking the other 2 thinking I got ripped off on the dosage. About an hour later, I was proven that I could not have been more wrong. The first visual to hit me were the heaviest tracers I've ever had in my life. People were playing volleyball, and I watched this ball duplicate itself in a long trail all the way across the court. The sand on the beach was flowing and rippling like water, and I kept seeing these strange little strings, visible vibrations or energy waves flowing in and out of everything. The drum circle ended at midnight, and I was still absolutely lost in the sauce, so my friends took me home and we threw on some live DJ sets and smoked, laughed and enjoyed each other's company for the rest of the night. When I finished my first joint, everything got so much more intense. I was staring at my popcorn ceiling, and the fractal patterns that were forming and destroying themselves out of the matter started to conceal into a humanoid, feminine figure who lowered herself from my ceiling all the way down to my bed, and I could feel her intentions. Even though she never spoke, I could tell that this spirit was benevolent and trying to show me something. My eyes ended up closing, not sure why, but they did, and I was then thrown into this complete ego death experience, where I was no longer me, a human, an American or anything, but just pure awareness. I was floating through this realm that seemed space-like, but made out of intricate patterns that kept zooming by me as I dove deeper into the center of whatever this fractal realm was. I was in turn high for the next 2 days, even seeing heavy visuals like strings and plant fractals for a solid 48 hours. Yeah, so that was my story. I ate 1000 UG of acid at a drum circle, sucked at volleyball, and met a multidimensional entity who gave me my first ego death. Story 2. Bit of an old story, so details are a bit fuzzy. It did end with me in the hospital with induced psychosis. Do not do what I did, please. Bought 10 tabs from a reputable seller who advertised it at 150 UG per tab, and I like a fool ended up taking them all. Started at 3 PM, I took 1 tab. Being restless, I waited half an hour and decided to take the rest to see how far I could really go. 3:30 PM. The rest of the tabs was taken, and at around 4:45, I immediately knew I was screwed when I had thought loops that randomly stopped and started, and all I could think about was that my brain was blue screening and crashing. Then the visuals slowly seeped in, breathing walls, etc. Then the fractals appeared, and my room was twisting and distorting with endless beams of interloping triangles that when I stared into them felt like it was endless. I felt a real sense of void and dread. 5:45. I was full-blown, tripping, pretty much immobilized, and was stuck. It felt like my life was on a record player, and I could see it in my head spinning back and forth. I had an alarm clock nearby. I started looking at it when I noticed time was speeding up, making it go from sunny to night in seconds, then slowly dragging back to my original time. 7. I was able to move some limbs, but I saw feathers appearing out of my skin, and it felt like my body was being pulled by the feathers. And at this point, I couldn't recognize my own room. It was being turned and almost into small spaghetti strands with these bright, omniscient feathers protruding from the gaps around me. Eventually, after 10 odd minutes, all I could see was feathers covering my room in a static. I lost it when I saw my life laid out. If I continued with the drugs progressing through, eventually I saw myself laying on the floor with EMTS, and I looked unrecognizable. Then, as I looked around, I saw biblically accurate angels surrounded in the same static feathers and eyes everywhere. It felt like I was free-falling into the void as darkness surrounded me. And then suddenly I was back in my bed with strangely no visuals at all. I stood up, looked down and saw my skin oozing, holes opening and closing. Suddenly I just forgot who I was and freaked out. I grabbed my phone and called an ambulance. It felt like I was having a heart attack and my surroundings zoomed in and out. I eventually was able to speak English well enough to tell the ambulance where to come, and I laid waiting as I shut my eyes. It felt like I wasn't real. I heard some minions chanting in another language that I couldn't understand. This continued for an unknown time. I opened my eyes and I was suddenly in the hospital surrounded by flying psychedelic cats for the next 2 days, not able to move or talk. This is everything I can remember. Please don't be as stupid as me. Respect the LSD. I hope you liked this story, guys. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more future content.